Well, good morning to everybody and welcome this morning to Timeout. My name is Jack Windt. I've just had a hot cup of coffee because it's cold. There's mist on the water behind me, and I hope that you're also going to have a cup of coffee or tea or your beverage that you'll enjoy and have a great weekend. This morning I want to pose us a question. Are we being brainwashed? Are you being brainwashed? Am I being brainwashed? And if we are, what does that look like, you may ask? And what can I do about it? I'm going to answer that in a moment, but I just want to say I had the privilege to meet up with some friends from the Netherlands this week, Shane and Esther, and I just want to greet them. It was great to see them again. Now, what would it look like if you and I, or we are brainwashed? Now, that's the end result. If I say to you, you're going to be brainwashed, everybody will throw their arms up and say, not me, that's not going to happen to me. But unfortunately, it doesn't start with brainwashing. It starts with what I call conditioning. And conditioning is a very powerful tool because it looks so innocent initially, and eventually it starts gaining momentum and it starts changing many things in our lives. Now, I want to use an example of Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler, he's a well-known leader in history, and I could use many leaders. There are many such people in Africa and Asia, in Russia, all over the world. But because we all know Adolf Hitler and what happened to him and the German people, I thought, let's start with him. How was it possible that a man like Adolf Hitler came to power and through conditioning eventually brainwashed a whole nation to do things that were totally destructive for them and to many other people in the world? And I'm not speaking about people, I'm talking about people that had talents and gifts, intellectual people. How was it possible for that to happen? And how did that work? Now, Adolf Hitler wasn't the brightest cookie in the jar. That's the honest truth. But he was the main cookie. And he influenced people to such an extent that they did absolute horrendous things for him because they believed in something that he said that brainwashed them into a way of thinking that was destructive. Now, it all starts with conditioning. Now, they say that if you're wanting to change a habit in your life, good or bad, you need between 21 days and 200 days to make it happen, which is like half a year or just over half a year for your habits to change. If you want your behavior to change, it takes 60 consecutive days of doing something in a specific way for your automatic response to kick in on that behavior. So, we can change our habits and our behavior within a year. Now, we in South Africa have been in lockdown longer than a year, more than 300 days, plus almost 400 days. And it has had an effect, and so everybody else. Now, so the question I ask myself is, what effect has this had on us? Now, I just want to say that there is an illness going around. I acknowledge it. I do not demean with people that are ill. I'm simply saying that my question that I'm asking myself is, this illness that's pandemic that came, was it an opportunity? This is just a question we have to answer. Was it an opportunity for certain people to use it and to weaponize it to bring about some form of control that was an exercise to start conditioning people in a certain way? Now, it may not. It may just be that it was just a very severe pandemic. Nobody had anything to do with it, and it's just playing out. Now, even if that's true, what I'm saying to you this morning about conditioning is still relevant. Now, let's look at conditioning. And so I just thought, before I start, can I just share a story with you? This is a true story. It actually happened to me. I was jogging the other day. I was taking some time out because I couldn't cycle, and I ran a route that I always run. And as I was running up this road, there's a house at the end of the road. It's adjoining to a veld, a massive veld. It's the house is set right at the back, so the garden is big, large. It's got palisade fencing. And as I was jogging up, there was nobody in sight. I was even far away from this house. I saw the owner, this lady, a middle-aged lady, standing in the middle of her garden with a hosepipe. It was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun was setting, a beautiful day, a little bit cool, and she was watering the garden. And she had a full mask on over her nose and her face. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Now, I'm not commenting whether that's right or wrong or condemning anybody. I'm simply giving an observation. Now, you may say, well, that's just something that happened normally. It just happened. Well, unfortunately, it wasn't, because a couple of days later, I found myself jogging again, the same route, same time, and exactly the same place. I found this lady in her garden watering with her mask on. And I just thought to myself, wow, the effect of the conditioning of what's happened in our country has really had a certain effect on our behavior and even on our habits. And, not necessarily that it is bad, but I just thought, why was this lady still wearing a mask when there was nobody else around her, and it was a brilliant day and it was an opportunity to get out? I can't answer that question, but it just again speaks to me about the effects of conditioning. Now, there is this is a truth that they said when they trained circus elephants, they would take them as babies and they would put a big chain around their foots, and they would put a deep peg in the ground, and that elephant would try, that baby would try everything to try and break that chain and get loose from their foot, but obviously it couldn't, because the chain was thick and the stake in the ground was a big stake. And so eventually what happened, through frustration, this elephant would realize it's futile. It's futile to try and get loose and to break loose. And as it grew, they would just make the chain less and the stake less, smaller, and this elephant would slowly be conditioned. And when it got to an adult, they could basically tie a string to its foot with a small little peg, and this elephant would not move from that spot, because in its mind, it had been conditioned. Now, the truth of the matter is, the elephants are massive and strong. It could just rip that cord, rip that stake out of the ground. That's the reality. But in its mind, it had been conditioned to believe that it was futile to struggle, because there was no future in trying to resist this cord and this stake in the ground, and it just had to stay on that spot. And that's the power of conditioning. It changes the way we see things. Now, I wrote a book on In Pursuit of Wisdom, and one of the quotes I wrote is that, our reality is our truth, period. And if that reality is based on a lie, then we are believing a lie. And all our values and our precepts are then filtered through that action of how we see things, through that lie. And so it's strange that through conditioning, we can actually, our reality can make us believe a lie. And that could become actually the norm. That could become our reality. So conditioning is very dangerous if it affects the truth. Now, you may say, Jack, what is the truth? Because, there's social media out there, and, there's a lot of things going out there. And let me just say, social media is not bad. Social media is just putting stuff out there. They are not supposed to be the filters, although there's some people that want to be the filters. The social media is just giving information. We have to make sure in our lives that we have the filters in our lives so that we can filter what is the truth. Otherwise, those things we hear may change our reality. And when that happens, it may change the fact that we start believing a lie, and then we start forming habits and behavior patterns that are detrimental, that can lead for us to become brainwashed in a certain way. Now, you may ask, Jack, what is truth? But before I answer that, I just want to say, I always used to say that, when you drink water and it's contaminated, your body can still use that water. It just filters it. But if you keep drinking contaminated water, your body then becomes the filter. and eventually your body clogs up because the filter is full of contaminants. So the purer the water you drink, the less stress there is on the body, the less it has to be the filter, and the less work it has to do. Now the same happens in our minds, because all these things are coming to us and we have to filter them. But if we can somehow realize that we can drink less contaminated water, our thoughts are no longer bombarded, and our mind doesn't have to be the filter that eventually clogs up and eventually starts believing something that is not true. And you may ask, well, what is truth? The only absolute truth I know, and it's not based on this guy said this or that, it's based on the Bible. You know, the Bible says, there's a verse that says, you'll know the truth, Jack, and the truth will make you free. It's something that the Bible promises. So now, there's also another scripture in Ephesians 4, and if you've ever read it, it says, whatsoever things are noble, whatsoever things are pure and right and wholesome and are praiseworthy, it says, whatever thoughts are like that, think on these things. Anything that's excellent and praise, think on these things. In other words, your filter in your mind should be based on what you allow into your life, because what we allow into our life through our thoughts starts to become something that conditions us. It can change our reality from the truth to a lie. And once our reality is changed, that becomes our truth, period. And now we start living a lie. And eventually, before we know it, we have been brainwashed to believe something that is absolutely false. So I want to encourage you, in your life, be careful what thoughts go into your mind. Be careful what you think upon. Be careful how you become the filter of those things. You have to be careful before they come in to look at them and to say, I don't want these thoughts. I don't want to be conditioned. I don't want my habits and behavior to be changed by a lie. And I don't want my reality to one day be something I'm shocked at. And how could I ever believe that? My name is Jack Windt. You've been watching Timeout. I'd love to hear your comments. And if you want to, it'll be great to share it. God bless you, and I'll catch you next time.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song.